We take you there live now.
Deputy President has arrived, and then it's just a few delegates that were still outside that are now moving into the hall. The accreditation of delegates has not yet been completed. Only one region now that they are dealing with. Almost 50% of the region is done, and some of their delegates are here, Dr. RSM, and then the remainder, obviously, they will then be joining in as fully accredited delegates, because the first session of the program is more prayers and welcome remarks, and then ultimately with the Deputy President opening. Those first session will be open to the media. And then when we move to the closed session, all delegates probably will be all in and then accredited. And that's when then we'll then be dealing with the court matter as the first item in the closed session, which I will be reading the statement from the Treasurer General as Acting Secretary General on the matter of the court. However, the understanding and the collective decision is that the conference is not interdicted, therefore it will be proceeding as is, and then we'll be able then to start with the business of the conference duly. The only affected party in the conference is your IPC members. 22, as cited in the court order, will no longer participate as voting delegates. However, they will now participate as non-voting delegates, and their participation is not in question either. So it's just the voting that we need to honor and respect the courts, because we are this law-abiding organization that once the court have declared will then definitely observe it to the latter. The business of the conference will be managed both by the ANC members and NEC members, and then however the presentation of the reports will still be done by members of the IPC, and obviously there's an item called adoption of the program, and then they are all listed as to who gives organizational report, who gives financial report, and who does the political input. And then obviously the chairing of the sessions will be pairing NEC members in the commissions to co-chair with the IPC members, because IPC is not interdicted, is not dissolved by the court itself. And then we'll also then be working in the working steering committee of the conference. The NEC will be chairing, and then the IPC members will still be fully functional in that particular steering committee, which is the highest body in the conference until the emergence of top five at the point when they get elected, and they will then take over. And then later, then additional members will then be voted. But the top five will then start taking over the conference at the time when the results are announced, later tonight or tomorrow morning. And the credentials will also be subjected to the closing session. We have dealt with quite a number of issues in the credentials through the Provincial Dispute Resolution Committee to the National Dispute Resolution Committee. Quite a number of names were cleared yesterday. I think there's a rumor that we are changing delegates. We are not changing any delegates. It is the application of the gender parity, that if it's two men who are there as delegates, we do phone that branch to say we have opened a pack and we are now seeing two men that are there. One should have been a woman and one a man, and the guidelines are clear. So at the time when the BGMs or BBGMs were sitting, they should have done that. But then it was only about 7 of those that were affected by that particular nature. And then the other packs, it was where there was nothing, no nominations, and then there were no delegates. Then we had to phone those branches if they have the packs, and then they will then submit. And then the last was when the date of the pack and the date of the submission of the nominations do not correspond, and then we also have to phone, engage, and verify, and then whatever is verifiable at that particular point in time, then to rectify. And the steering committee is the body then that clears as the packs were opened last night. And then the team of the packs is now looking at the nominations now. They are still going to be auditing because quite a number of people were nominated quite widely, I must say, but you must reach a particular threshold, and we'll announce at that time when the Electoral Commission come in to say who has qualified as a contestable candidate, and those that could not, because there were fewer branches that will have nominated them. And then I think it will clean itself. And then the floor is still available for those who want to contest. And then where you need to gather 25% of the total delegates from there. I think I'm so happy that finally we are on the road. And then, yes, there were technical issues of delay of the start of the administration because we had to clean all the delegates as the envelopes were open and sign them off with the regional coordinators so that then the delegates then can then be confirmed. And then, but almost 70% to 80% of the delegates are now confirmed as accredited, and then they are inside the venue of the meeting as we speak. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Bra Ops. Before I open the floor for questions, it's quite important, Bra Ops, that we also help members of the media with a general understanding of the ANC Constitution. All of the issues that Bra Ops has clarified are actually covered by the Constitution. Specific rules under 17.1, 17.2, which actually says that conference will be held, the provincial conference will be held once every 4 years, and more often if requested by at least 1/3 of branches in good standing in the province. 17.2.2 of the ANC Constitution deals with the composition of that conference, that at least 90% of delegates to conference will be branch delegates, at least 90%. It can be over 90%. The second part of that deals with the second category of delegates to conference. 10%. This is part of the 10%. This is now members of the Provincial Executive Committee. In the instance of the Northwest Province, it will be members of the IPC. The third category is the Regional Executive Committee. In this instance, it will become the IRC. So the 17.2.2, the 17.2.3, all of these deal with category of that ANC delegation made up or constituted by the 10%. We are saying this point so that we can help empower each other on ANC processes. Perhaps yesterday when a court ruling was made, more than one media house went with a story that the provincial conference has been interdicted, creating confusion amongst members of the ANC in the province of the Northwest, but also amongst members of the ANC throughout the country. Because the ANC is not just it's not a federal structure. We're a unitary organization. We exist in all the 9 provinces, in 53 regions. So we're going to appeal to members of the media that when you are unsure of issues, we are available to help empower yourselves, understand this thing. We have also seen, perhaps even outside courts, those that had gone to court misinterpreting what is the decision of the court. Comrade Robert has clarified it. The court dealt with an issue of the first respondent. Who is the first respondent in this matter? The first respondent is the IPC. So you don't ventilate your issues in the body of the argument and forget to list all your respondents where you are supposed to. Because when the judge makes a ruling, they concern themselves on who is the respondent. They said that we must pay the respondent must pay all the fees of the application, and then they also dealt with who participates in that. Thought this clarifies the issues. So we'll open the floor for questions. Comrade Obed is here. He will be able to clarify all of your questions. Otherwise, all the other issues will be contained in the statement that Comrade Obed is going to be presenting to conference on behalf of the Secretary General's office, which effectively uses a number of these constitutional provisions to be able to clarify our understanding of the order and the work that now needs to be done to take forward the 9th Provincial Conference, as well as the status of the IRC and the leagues in this conference. We may now proceed to entertain questions. Ule, ENCA. Usaba.
He thought about it.
Hey, no.
Of course, I'm writing down.
Yeah, that's fine. No. Not in a bad way.
Clarity on
Yeah.
so does this mean that the ANC takes over the conference? That's question number one. And
The NEC does what?
does it mean that the ANC takes over the conference now that the IPC will not be participating in the voting process? Number two, are you aware about a court application that has also been launched just now that now seeks to interdict the conference in its whole entirety? What's your response on that? Maybe just secondly, I had this in terms of looking at the challenges that have come with the conference. Do you think you've been outspoken on suspicions of questionable branch delegates for this conference as well? Do you think that's been a process and that's been a problem in looking at the legitimacy of branch delegates? Thank you.
Okay, before I hand over to Comrade Robert, we will clarify the issues. But just to help you, because Comrade Robert made that point. You see, your Rule 12.1 of the ANC Constitution makes the National Executive Committee the highest decision-making body in between conferences. It actually compels us to direct the work of the organization overall. And Comrade Robert never said that the PEC, the IPC won't be running. He said the only powers that they are forfeiting is voting. But all other things they are going to be doing.
And we'll work jointly with them.
I just want clarity on that before you say we are distorting the message or whatever. So
Okay, you can repeat it with an adult voice.
Okay. No longer youthful. No, we are not taking over everything of the conference. The IPC will still be functional, organizing body of the conference. The only power that they forfeit as a result of the court order is the voting power. However, they will be presenting reports, they will be chairing some of the commissions, and then even the plenary, we might even be co-chairing with them. And then so that we could then have a smooth beginning. And then that beginning, obviously, will start with the opening ceremony. It will be chaired by the IPC. And in the closed session, because the NEC will be presenting a statement by the Treasurer General, then it will then be chaired by the NEC and the statement will be read. So it's not taking over, it's helping and assisting each other. As Comrade Pule was saying, the ANC is unitary. We have different functions governed by the Constitution. The new interdict, yes, we have heard about it last night, and I was also told, and I told Pule last night, in the early hours of the morning, that they were going to look for me somewhere in Rustenburg, me and my comrade Novulam Konyane, because they know we're in Rustenburg, to serve us. So we have not yet been served, and then until maybe they serve us, we sign, and then it might then be a matter in court if they get a date. But it doesn't bother us for now. It's an intention that is there. It doesn't stop the conference from starting, and we hope, therefore, we'll be starting in a few minutes. And the questionable delegate, the credentials will clarify, will answer those questions at that point. And I don't know what are they now as you are speaking, as you are presenting them, but then we'll hear them from the floor, and they will be clarified quite a number of them. And if there's substance in any of them, we'll then assign the steering committee to go and then deal with the matter and bring it back to the floor of the conference. Thank you.
Okay.
I hope the adult has explained.
You're covered. Okay.
Okay. Just keep my focus. Thank you very much.
Okay. No.
No, we no longer need these things.
Oh, okay. No,
I've
that's
got
fine.
paper now.
We are covered. We'll take Ndebu and Kaurelo from a news note.
Is it your understanding, when you were explaining your interpretation of this matter, you did not refer to the other interim structures at the international level? Is it your understanding that they too are barred from participating? And then the second question pertains to the several branches that you say were directed to reconfigure their delegations in order to accommodate women. Is this, I'm assuming this is meant to achieve a 50-50 present representation in the conference. Does it mean that with the few other conferences that we've seen at provincial levels, that the ANC achieved this in terms of the composition of the delegation? It was 50-50 consistently, how the KZN, the recent ones that were concluded.
No, that's fine. Comrade Robert will come and answer after Ndebo, but just to assist you quickly so that this question does not repeat itself. The court order says, especially on the second part, so that it's not our understanding, it's what the judge wrote. We did not write this with the judge. It says, it is declared that the first respondent does not have the voting powers in the ANC Provincial Conference, scheduled from the 12th to the 14th of August 2022. As a reina, a judge, in court order. So Comrade Robert will answer the rest. This is not our understanding, it's what the judge wrote. I type again, it type like a judge. Yes, so we need to try and push. I'm told that DPC, you say, we want a conference at Yualabe.
Okay, Deputy SABC, I know we have spoken about it, but maybe again, another question. The ANC, it's a conference.
Yes.
Discourage members of the ANC not to take part in the organization, but to rather use internal party forces or internal mechanisms to ventilate their disagreement or their anger. But despite that, the ANC has been taken to court over and over again. What is that you missing as the ANC to discourage members to take the organization to court? Because even now in the court case, is it because you don't have the capacity or maybe the objectivity or maybe being objective to deal with internal party processes, then members ultimately resort to court because you don't have the capacity to deal with that? Do you lack objectivity? That's why people resort to court.
Okay, Mara.
On the regional structures, they are not cited in the court order. I know in the argument they were mentioned and cited, but the judge concluded by only saying the IPC and listed the names of those that cannot participate and vote. And therefore, the issue of the regional structure, we had engaged on it as NEC members deployed to this conference. We are still further engaging and seeking legal what does it mean. For now, their status is voting delegates until such time that we are advised otherwise, but they are not cited as not participating. And if we could then begin to proceed with that particular understanding. Yes, it is the IPC that has appointed those structures, and then did the IPC extend their mandate? They were not extended with a mandate. We are also looking the view as to what are the implications by virtue of the IPC not extending the IRC's mandate of life. And therefore, we will then be taking the matter to the steering committee during the course of the conference, and an update on the matter will then be presented to you at a point to say this is the final conclusion on the matter, but allow those internal engagements and discussions to be concluded with our lawyers and then the understanding of the court order. The issue of the branches and the 50%, I don't have the stats of Gauteng, KZN and every other conference, but by virtue of the membership of the ANC, what I've seen, majority are women. But then when it comes to the issue of choosing delegates, then you find that men are chosen to be the delegates. That is why we're putting now this principle that for every 2 delegates, there must be a female, there must be a male. And then if you have to go to, and if there are 2 females, it's okay, we don't change it. And if it's 2 men, definitely we'll then alter that and make sure therefore that it takes us to the achievement of that particular. It's a mission, it's a historic mission that the ANC is involved in. We know that it will gonna take time. We live in a patriarchy society. but the ANC is doing all to make sure, therefore, that we reach that gender parity. Even when we send delegates to Parliament, to the legislatures, to the council, there's responding party that is giving the gender parity a seriousness is the African National Congress compared to all other parties. If the ANC can withdraw that, it will be all men across all legislatures, council, because the other parties are not. And then I think there's a proposal towards the policy conference, going to the conference, that maybe a law ought to be enacted that all parties must bring gender parity to all bodies of representation, but it is subject to policies of the ANC, whether it will make it as a law in the country. It will then go through all the passages of the processes, because we take gender very, very serious. On the issue of the objectivity, we don't lack objectivity as the African National Congress. Some matters are complex and very difficult, and from time to time they will challenge us, but we do give consideration, and then we also give and respond. But when people are not satisfied with the internal processes, there's nothing that stops them from approaching the court to seek an arbitration of some sort. But matters internally, we do engage, we do exhaust, but at most often you find those situations where they are not happy, and then it is their right, even though we do discourage members from going to the court. But at the end, after resolving the matters, or sometimes the matters move slowly in the ANC because we're this big organization too, and with so many issues that we deal with, and some people lack patience, and then they'll then decide to take the matter to court, and we then do go there to defend ourselves. But if you can understand on this matter, the ANC went to court yesterday to defend on 3 areas: the urgency, as to whether this matter is urgent, and we lost on it. Secondly, the jurisdiction of the court, Mabato, because the headquarters of the ANC is in Lituli House in Johannesburg. And then we are not cited, but because we are a unitary organization, we also offered our availability to go in there, because any part of the body of the ANC that gets interdicted, the ANC is a unitary organization. We lost on that one, and then obviously the cost as indicated, and also the IPC, that they cannot vote. So the substantive matters that could have been presented were little presented. And then are we going to appeal? The matter is not appealable now. However, we'll then begin to look at the other course of legal advices at a particular point in time, guided by the National Working Committee, which will be engaging through the Office of the Secretary General with the legal team to say, do we want, because it has a far-reaching implication for Free State that has an IPC that is extended. It has a far-reaching also for the Western Cape that has an IPC that is extended. And therefore, we then have to really, as those are all pending conferences, then to go back and then see if we cannot do so. And then we'll then be advised on the matter because of the far-reaching implication. Thank you.
Thanks, Bra Ops, for that comprehensive response. We can take that, maybe
the last two.
The last 2, 3 hands. Okay. On gender, before you come in, you asked across provinces where we have held, at least I would have had the privilege to attend almost all provincial conferences that said, I can confirm that all of them achieved the 50% parity. What Comrade Obed and the team are trying to do in the Northwest is to make sure that we do not lose on that important principle of gender representation. So it's well within the work that we do in the organization. It's nothing unusual. I've clarified the point, and I want to amplify this so that Comrade Ndebo doesn't think that we are not together. What Comrade Robert is saying is exactly what I said to you yesterday. We are not going to punish.
You wanted the different.
Yes, no, I don't punish Abantu because they've exercised their right to go to courts. What we must do is to draw lessons and say, what are the lessons that the ANC can learn from the outcomes of the courts? Do what Comrade Robert is talking about. Try reinforce our own interest.
Okay, we're coming out of Rustenburg there for you, and of course it was Obed Babela from the ANC's NEC as well as Molema, this party spokesperson, speaking about some of the issues that needed to be ironed out just before the conference itself starts, and of course putting clarity to the talks around the court interdict that happened, and of course just clarifying there that it was not to interdict the conference itself, but the voting of certain IPC members who can no longer vote now, and of course said that NEC members will be managing and observing all of those processes happening there